We have seen the first major organized tournament with the set of Phyrexia All Will Be One standard legal. Let's have a look at how that affected the meta. And before we go into it, let us know down in the comment section which card from Phyrexia All Will Be One did you decide to put in your decks.
So far in the meta, especially if you go data mine and look at all the magic battles being fought on the arena, you can see that there has not been much changes due to Phyrexia All Will Be One, especially not in Tier 1. In Tier 1, it's being dominated by mono white soldiers and Azorius soldiers, and these two decks, being tribal decks, have not found any way to incorporate all these Phyrexia All Will Be One new cards. But in Tier 2, we're going to see some changes, because in Tier 2 you have mono white aggro, and mono white aggro has found a little gem in Skelf Defector Might. This Defector Might is really powerful. If you don't have some way to deal with it when it comes down onto the battlefield, you're going to have a problem, because it can grant hexproof, and that is insanely powerful. You're going to have a great problem, because you are not going to be able to remove all these annoying white aggro creatures. Another card that has found its way into mono white aggro is Phyrexian Vindicator. It's a great flyer, it has a lot of hitting power, and what really makes this shine in the mono white aggro, it's its ability to deal damage to any target whenever it gets damaged. By having this into your decks, you're going to force your opponents to make some really hard blocks or really choose their removal wisely. And if you combine this with the Defector Might, you're going to see that this card is going to be really hard to remove from the battlefield, and this might just give the last little gas for those aggro decks to do the last damage they need to finish off their opponents. Another beast having found its way into mono black mid-range is Phyrexian Obliterator. This card is such a huge threat. When it comes down, your opponents are going to have a hard time dealing with it, so it has found a really permanent home. We've also seen some Gruul decks using it, especially with fight spells, where you cast a fight spell on your Phyrexian Obliterator, fight some other big creature, and then it gets a lot of damage, and then you force your opponents to sacrifice a lot of permanents. Phyrexian Obliterator is going to be in the meta, and it has found a home in the mono black mid-range decks. Sulfim Mayhem Dominus. It's going to be incorporated into mono red burn decks. Unfortunately, right now, it looks like that these mono red burn decks that actually use Sulfim are worse off than the mono red burn decks that do not use. So if this card is going to be in the meta, or is going to be phased out when people find out that it's not going to have the effect that they actually wished it had, that remains to be seen. Also, another card, which is a favorite of mine, is Venerated Rot Priest. There have been a lot of fun plays in Simic, that is blue-green, with Venerated Rot Priest, where you abuse its ability to, whenever a creature you control becomes targeted, your opponent gets a toxic counter. And this also triggers when you target your own creatures. So we have seen a lot of cards being put into decks that multiplies these target abilities, and that can stack up really quickly. I have seen Simic Venerated Rot Priest decks finish their opponents on turn 3. That is insane. Unfortunately, you are going to have a lot of troubles if you do not get your Venerated Rot Priest, and also you need something to protect him, because he is a big target for removal. So you're going to have a hand where you both have Venerated Rot Priest and protection spells from the get-go. And that can be hard to obtain, especially on Arena, where the shuffler is not always fine. Let's just put it like that. And that might also be the reason why Simic decks with Venerated Rot Priest are trotting along down in Tier 4. We have this on the screen here, where you can actually see a Simic deck that has some kind of okay win rate.
So Sulfim definitely not worth a try. I had it in my mono red aggro deck and I did not enjoy it, so I can't recommend that. But if you are enjoying this video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We really appreciate it.
The mere toxic decks are using a lot of the cards from Phyrexia All Will Be One, but unfortunately these decks are really underperforming at the moment. The only saving grace for these decks is that they are actually very close to being free to play, since they have very close to 0 rares in them. But then again, if you are actually just wanting to start up on the arena, if you're wanting to try to play on the arena, and not wanting to spend a lot of money on pixels, you are better off playing mono blue tempo decks, since these decks are only having 4 rare cards, and these decks are performing much better than the Dimir Control and Dimir Toxic decks. As we hinted in the hook, one card has really had a tremendous impact. In this recent tournament, players found out how to use Phyrexia Grand Unifier, and that has had a profound effect, especially on the price of the card. The price of the card went from not really being registered at that high value to being the most expensive card in Phyrexia All-Will-Be-One, and this happened overnight. The card price has exploded. Other cards worth mentioning are Elish Norn, Mother of Machines. She is still rising in price. Mondrak, Glory Dominus. This card is appearing quite frequently on Arena actually, and it is a pain to deal with, and it seems like Mondrak is stabilizing in price at the moment. Sword of Fortune Frontier is stabilizing in price. Another card that performed well at the tournament was the Mycosynth Gardens, and that card is rising in price astronomically. And Venerated Rot Priest, people are still speculating, trying to find out how to use its great ability, and it's still rising in price. Also, Skrelv's Hive is stabilizing in price right now, but it seems like it's going to be a kind of valuable card in this set. So that was some of the expensive cards, but it's also worth noting that there's a difference between having cards that are expensive and having cards that are popular. Some cards are featuring both on the valuable card list and on the popular card list, and this might be a really good trend for these cards. So cards that are actually on both lists is the Mycosynth Garden, and this card is going to rise in price, I'm certain of it. Another card is Venerated Rot Priest and Skrelv's Hive. These are some of the most popular cards on card market from the set right now. Other popular cards from the set is Minor Misstep, Shieldred's Edict, and Mercurial Spelldancer. It is of course always really easy to be smart and know what cards are going to make it and what cards are not in hindsight. But some of these cards were on our radar from day one. And if you want to see what we said about the set when there were going these massive leaks out of all the rares, you can watch that video right here. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again really soon.